Hi class. Today I want to talk to you about transference and countertransference in the therapy setting or the internship or practicum setting. Transference is a phenomenon. It's basically characterized by your unconscious redirection of feelings from one person to another. And transference sometimes can be from your childhood. It can be from desires that are expressed forward or retained that we keep. It's also the reproduction of emotions and feelings that have been part of our life, substitutions of another person, repressed impulses. All those things go into describing what transference is. Now, how does that play into the therapeutic situation? Well, I posted a really good video on countertransference on your content shell, but I want to go into an example of a transference exercise that I thought would be really, really good. Let's go into a little bit of history first. Transference was first brought up and first described by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, who acknowledged how important it is in the psychoanalysis of clients and to understand the patient's feelings. Now, in the past, the client would be laying on the couch, and of course the therapist would be there, and they would let the client talk and share their feelings and thoughts. And the therapist would pick that perfect moment to share with the client and interject specific things that would help them re-look at their situation and make parallels, so then they can change the behavior and hopefully influence that behavior and the thought process to change their way of thinking. So what is the purpose of learning about transference? Well, we're mostly taught that transference is a bad thing, that we're taught that, be careful not to transfer your thoughts, project your feelings on your clients, which would be countertransference, or transference, the client sees something in you and gets angry at you or upset with you or sees something and shares that. Recognizing transference is one thing. I don't necessarily feel that there's enough teaching on the fact that transference is also a positive thing, and it can be used as a therapeutic tool as well. So let's first go to an example. We're going to do a little bit of a transference exercise right now. So I want you to find a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll give you a couple minutes for that. Go ahead and get that ready. Okay, I'm going to start. On this piece of paper, I want you to think about a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, or even a close friend. And then I want you to think about some aspect of their personality that you have a strong reaction to, whether that's a good reaction or a bad reaction. I want you to write down their name on a piece of paper, and then underneath their name, I want you to describe that aspect of their personality that you either have a strong or negative reaction to. Include your thoughts, your feelings toward that person and their personality. I want you to go ahead and do that now. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is now I want you to take your pen and I want you to draw a box around all that information. And I want you to write at the top, is this transference? You might be confused why I asked you to do that. Now I want you to look about characteristics in your life that may relate back to your parents or childhood situations and see if there's any connections. Those descriptions that you just wrote about that person, do those match any of your parents or feelings or barriers that you have with them or siblings or someone in your past? Where is this frustration coming from? Now, that's part of the therapeutic process for yourself as a therapist to look at that and say, ooh, wow, I never saw that before. I made those connections. Now, in some cases, you're not going to have those connections. Some people don't have as many transference issues as others. But like we pointed out in the definition earlier, it's an inappropriate repetition in the present of a relationship that was important in the person's past. Something occurred that made them feel that way. And it impacts us as people in general, and it impacts us as therapists because it impacts how we counsel people. And sometimes we don't realize that. And I think it's important to make those connections, because the sooner that you can make those connections, the more effective of a counselor you'll become, because you'll know your weaknesses, you'll know your barriers, you'll know your buttons that will create transference. And so I want you to think about that. So if you have had that connection with the parents or someone in your past, and you can make that aha moment, it's something to really think about. Why are you irritated in the present? Well, something wasn't, you didn't have closure. Something affected you or impacted you. The story needs to be rewritten. So I'll give you an example. Why is transference good for not only the therapist or for the client? So let's say a client comes to you and they say, they're telling you about things that are bothering them, barriers that they have in their life, and you happen to raise your eyebrows like that. Or lift your head in a certain way, or lift the pen to your face. I see. Those are natural reactions for you. You're going to automatically do those. I have big puffy eyebrows. They are a part of my facial description, my facial language, my story that I share with the client. And when I raise my eyebrows, that's just a normal reaction that I would have normally. However, what if this client's father, when they were disappointed in them, raised his eyebrows? I see. Which was then possibly followed with the client being belittled over some kind of behavior they did when they were a child, or punished, or some kind of negative connotation that makes them feel inferior, or makes them feel not accepted or rejected. What if the client comes instantly and says to you, as you're talking, you go, you know what? Wait, what you just did with your eyebrows? My dad used to do that. Oh, that bothered me so much. That's a missed opportunity, because a lot of counselors go, oh, that's really? Oh, wow. And just kind of move on, because they're focused on the goal at hand of the topic. That's an amazing teaching moment that you need to stop instantly and utilize transference as a possible healing tool. Now, how can you do that? Well, what you'll do is you'll then ask the person, well, how did that make you feel when, he raised his eyebrow like that? And, what would be healing to you? Share with me what would be healing to you if that reaction was different. What was the key moment? What are the key memories that you have of him doing that, and how did that make you feel, and why does that make you feel that way? And you can open a whole new avenue, and you're using the transference at this point. Now, you can also use this moment, once you get more detail, to recorrect some of the underlying issues by doing some role playing. And you can speak to the client and say, okay, I'm going to pretend like I'm your father, and I'm going to raise my eyebrow, and I'm going to put my pen against my face. And they're going to look at you and go, okay, let's try that. And you're going to walk them through it. They're going to tell you what they need, or what they may have needed from that parent or that person. And you're slowly trying to recorrect the behaviors and the feelings and those maladaptive thoughts. And what you end up doing is you end up reprogramming their thought process by giving them another option. Carl Jung he took it a step further. He was all about the psychological growth is the key to success, and the ability to endure tensions and the abandoning process of transformation in our lives. And I think that's important to be aware, be self-aware that you can use these transference skills as teachable moments to help your client instead of just overlooking them. And I think that's important for you guys to know, and you're going to run into that. You're going to have students, for example, if you have younger children. And let's say the younger children, my mother yelled at me and raised her voice, and I don't like it when she does that. That's a teachable moment. You already know that she's transferred onto you. You already know that she's already transferred a certain behavior because you happen to have raised your voice. It bothers her. Instead of now, don't bother me, go sit down. And everybody has to listen. That's a moment for you to walk in, look eye to eye in contact, especially with a child, and say, I'm sorry. I did not mean to hurt your feelings by raising my voice. What can I do next time to help you with that? What kind of voice would make you feel good if I used it? And then you learn and you teach and you bring that out in the child and you start that healing process. And and you can do it in small bursts like that, and it makes a huge impact on the person, and it also builds the trust relationship with the therapist. And in a small, quick setting, like when you're working with children, for example, that moment can mean so much in their confidence that someone actually acknowledged that painful memory and made something positive out of it. And it can have an impact in our feelings and our behaviors, and like I said earlier, about our maladaptive thoughts and whatnot. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with transference, and please watch the video on countertransference, because sometimes as therapists, we have the opposite problem. As therapists, we get irritated or we take on certain feelings and we project those on the client. So let's say in the video, for example, it shows that the person is frustrated because the person either doesn't ask to pay bills, they don't pay bills on time, and they don't ask their wife. And of course, she's in the situation as a therapist that her husband doesn't ask that either, and she's instantly irritated. The client is not on time, and her husband's not on time. Instantly, she's feeling these frustrating moments, and she's talking it out in her supervision class. And watch how the therapist leads her to the direction and how therapeutically he does it without saying, this is what's wrong with you, this is your problem, blah, blah, blah. He lets her find her journey towards the answer of what she needs to do. He shows her the red marker. And we need to try to do that more. It's hard. It's a hard skill to learn. I'm still working on it, but it's something that I think can really benefit you. So that's it for transference and countertransference, and I hope that helps this week. All right, guys.